In the video linked above, you'll see the reasons why I use Shimano SPuD style pedals on my road bikes. For quite a number of years I've used these Shimano M525 pedals. They've reached the end of their life and it was time to replace them. With a street price of about £35, the Shimano pedals are actually quite good value. The only real downside is their weight at nearly 500 gram. I could have gone with the safe Shimano option, but I decided to broaden the search. Practically all pedals are made in China, so I decided to look on AliExpress. The first option was a Shimano M520 pedal, although the price was not really much cheaper than buying from the UK. Also on AliExpress, there's always the chance that they are counterfeit items. I decided to look at the more obscure brands because these tend to be cheaper and give good value. The cheapest option was this ZTTO pedal. At only about £12, they're very cheap, and I've had some good experiences with ZTTO products. They were still quite heavy, however. I searched for some lighter double-sided pedals and came across the Zeray ZP108s pedals. At £16, they were about half the price of the Shimano pedals, and they were over 100 gram lighter. I purchased a set and they arrived about 10 days later. The pedals came in a plain but perfectly adequate box. In the box were a pair of pedals, some SPuD cleats, and a full set of instructions. The pedals and cleats are compatible with Shimano SPuD. On initial examination, the quality of the pedals looked quite reasonable, with an aluminium alloy body and chrome-plated steel axles and clip-in parts. When I rotated the axles, the bearings feel quite smooth, although a little stiff. I suspected this was because of the seals. The quality of the machining and the finish is perfectly adequate, although you wouldn't mistake them for high-end pedals. The cleats that came with the Zray pedals, seen here on the right, are almost identical to the Shimano ones. I assessed the wear resistance of the metal by running a file over them. They both seemed identical. The measured weight of these pedals is 287 gram, which is over 200 gram less than my Shimano M525 pedals. They are, however, about 80 gram heavier than my lightweight titanium-axled single-sided pedals. Overall, considering they're double-sided, I think the weight of these Zray pedals is quite good. If I compare this to a single-sided SPuD pedal, you can see that the cornering clearance is very similar. There's no loss in going to double-sided in this respect. So far I'm quite happy with these pedals. Now I need to put them on the bike and see how well they clip in and clip out. In the longer term, I'll assess how they will last through a UK winter. I tried the axle threads in 2 different cranksets. In both, the threads fitted just fine. One slight inconvenience is that there are no spanner flats on the axle, so you'll have to tighten and loosen them using an Allen key in the end of the axle. This isn't a great inconvenience, but it would have been nice to have both options. Clicking in and out at first was a little more difficult than I expected, but after use they freed up. The spring tension can be adjusted in order to make the clicking in harder or easier, but I didn't need to adjust that. As these are double-sided pedals, clicking in is a bit easier because you don't have to flip over the pedal when starting. Overall, I had no problems clicking in or clicking out. As you can see here, there's a bit of float in the cleat system. This was with my part-worn Shimano cleats. I changed the cleats over to the supplied cleats. This reduced the float a bit, but there was still some float. The cleats clicked into these Shimano pedals quite tightly. That is, there's no float, which suggests that the float is caused by the pedal and not the cleats. I quite liked having the float. However, if you like your cleats to be tight, then these pedals are not for you. Despite being used through the winter, the aesthetics of the pedal seems to have held up well. A few minor rust spots have developed on the axles. Although, by way of comparison, as you can see here, a set of much more expensive Shimano pedals have rusted much more extensively. After those 4,000 kilometers, the cleats still click in and click out just fine, and the float has not increased appreciably. Despite the float, the pedals felt secure for my day-to-day use. After a winter of use, the bearings are still running smoothly, but those seals have loosened up. I can now feel the tiniest amount of movement in the bearings. Taking the end cap off the pedals reveals a nut. The nut needs a special thin socket to remove it, but I didn't have one, so I couldn't get inside. I suspect the main bearing is a plain bearing. There is, though, a supplementary cartridge ball bearing on the end of the axle. This design is not unusual for low to medium price pedals, and indeed it's a good design choice for reliability. That bearing movement is the bearing clearance and is to be expected. The plain bearings will have slightly more friction than cartridge bearings, so if you're looking for high performance pedals, these are probably not for you. Although the seals have freed up, they still seem to create a good dirt and moisture barrier. Overall, I found these Zray pedals to be low priced, but not the cheapest on AliExpress. Overall, the manufacturing quality seemed to be good enough. The pedals function as well as my Shimano pedals. One possible downside is that the pedal system has some foot float, and there's no option to remove that float. After 4,000 kilometers of use, the durability looks good. Based on about 5 months of use, a single winter, and over 4,000 kilometers of use, I would expect these pedals to last quite a few years. If you want a low-cost, relatively lightweight, durable pedal, then I can recommend these Zray pedals. If you want something with proven durability and are willing to pay the extra, both in terms of price and weight, then go for Shimano pedals. According to my YouTube statistics, about 90% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed. Hence, I would ask you, if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button. You can always unsubscribe later if you find my channel is not to your liking. As a taster, here are some other videos that you may find interesting. Also, a thumbs up would be a great reward for my effort in making this video. I'd be happy to receive comments or to answer questions that are left in the comment section. From me until the next video, it's goodbye.